I want to start this conversation by telling you something deeply personal. I remember nights, so many nights, where the silence in my room was louder than any scream, and the only company I had was the heavy, suffocating feeling that God had simply forgotten my address. If you are sitting there right now, feeling that specific, deep ache that settles in your chest and just won't leave, please know this. I see you, and I have been exactly where you are. This isn't about giving you a quick, sterile religious answer. This is about inviting true, deep healing into the parts of your soul that feel too broken to touch. We are talking about the profound, almost unbelievable promise hidden in Revelation 21:4, the promise that He Himself will wipe away every single tear. But how do we experience that healing now when the tears are still falling? The first essential step, the foundation we must lay together, is giving ourselves absolute, unconditional permission to be wounded. We spend so much energy trying to be strong, trying to prove to the world and often to ourselves that we are fine. But deep emotional pain is not a failure of character. It is evidence that you loved, that you cared, and that you risked your heart. Think of your soul right now, not as a strong, impenetrable fortress, but as a beautiful, delicate clay vessel. Perhaps it has been cracked by unexpected betrayal, chipped away by years of criticism, or completely shattered by sudden, overwhelming grief. We try desperately to hold the pieces together, but the cracks leak our vital energy, our chi, making us tired, anxious, and perpetually drained. I know what it feels like to put on that mask every morning, pretending the vessel is whole, while inside you are struggling just to hold the water. I did that for years. I thought my pain made me weak. I thought acknowledging the wound meant I was failing my faith. But healing never begins with denial. It begins with honest sight.
Are you still holding your breath? Just release it. We are safe here. The first profound error we make when we are hurting is trying to bypass the pain and jump straight to joy. We try to glue the vessel shut with positive affirmations or forced smiles. But true healing requires us to gently turn the vessel over. Look at the deepest, sharpest cracks and say, yes, this hurts. This is where I broke. This vulnerability is not a weakness. It is the starting point of divine strength. And this brings us to the crucial realization about the nature of the prayer that wipes away tears. It is not a prayer of demand. It is a prayer of surrender. You cannot surrender what you refuse to acknowledge. So before we even whisper a word, we must identify the specific wound that is causing the deepest flow of tears right now. Is it the wound of abandonment? The wound of injustice? The wound of regret? We often generalize our sadness, saying, I'm just sad. But if we want instant healing, which means present healing, we must be specific with the divine healer. This is an intimacy that requires courage. It requires saying, God, this crack, the one caused by the words they said 10 years ago, is still bleeding. Another point that often gets missed when we are in this profound state of brokenness is the difference between suffering and processing. Suffering is passive. It's what happens to us. Processing is active. It's what we do with the suffering. When you invite the healer into your broken vessel, you are moving from passive suffering to active processing. You are giving the Holy Spirit the specific broken pieces to work with.
This is not a difficult task, but it requires stillness. That heavy silence you feel sometimes, that is often the space where the healing begins, if we allow it. I used to run from silence because my thoughts were too loud, but I learned that the voice of grace is always quiet, always gentle, and it waits patiently for us to stop running and simply rest our weary soul right where the vessel is cracked. This deep rest, this stillness, prepares us for the powerful act of prayer we will explore next. That stillness we just talked about, that deep rest, is crucial because it leads us to the hardest part of the journey, finding the words when the pain has stolen your voice. I know what that feels like. I have been there, sinking into the carpet, feeling like my heart was a heavy stone and my lungs couldn't pull in enough air to even whisper a prayer. In those moments, we often try to craft perfect theological sentences, thinking God only listens to eloquence. But sometimes, all we have is a groan, a desperate, guttural sound that says, I can't carry this anymore. And I want you to understand that that groan, that raw, honest cry, is the most powerful prayer you can offer. It is the language of the broken vessel, speaking directly to the sculptor. We turn now to the true mechanism of healing, the prayer rooted in the profound promise of Revelation 21:4. He will wipe away every tear from their eyes. The power of this prayer is not in what we say, but in the divine hand we are inviting to reach down into our specific mess. This is an active invitation, requiring 3 simple but deeply courageous steps.
The first step is what I call the acknowledgement of the clay. When we are broken, we tend to hide the sharpest pieces. We present the manageable pain to the world and even to ourselves, while locking the truly agonizing parts away in the basement of our soul. This prayer requires you to open that basement door. It means naming the specific tear, the specific wound, without judgment or minimization. Don't just say, "I'm sad." Say, "I am weeping because the betrayal of that friendship left a hole in my trust that I fear will never close." Or, "I am weeping because I feel utterly abandoned by the hope I once held, and the future looks cold." When I was going through my darkest season, I used to try to pray away the pain instantly, treating it like a spiritual inconvenience. But healing doesn't start until we stop arguing with the reality of the pain. It starts when we look at the cracked vessel of our soul and say, "Yes, this is broken, and it hurts this much." I remember thinking my pain was too ugly, too messy, too complex for grace to touch. I thought I had to clean myself up first. But the truth is, the healer only needs the raw material. He needs the clay exactly as it is, covered in dirt and tears. This acknowledgement is difficult because it forces us to feel the full weight of the grief we've been avoiding. But listen closely now. You cannot surrender what you refuse to name. This leads us directly to the second courageous step, the surrender of the timeline. Many of us pray for healing, but secretly we are dictating the terms. We want the pain gone by tomorrow. We want the wound to vanish by next month, or before we have to face that person again. But healing, true, deep healing that reshapes the foundation of the soul, operates on a divine timeline, not a human one.
Surrendering the timeline means releasing your attachment to when the tear will be wiped away, and focusing only on the certainty that it will be wiped away. It is saying, "Lord, I give you this pain, and I trust that you are working, even if I wake up tomorrow and the ache is still heavy." This is where faith stops being a theory and becomes a muscle. I know how desperately hard it is to let go of control when you are spiraling. I have been there, bargaining with God, trying to trade my good behavior for instant relief, but that never works. True surrender is the ultimate act of humility, admitting that the sculptor knows the firing temperature and the shaping time better than the clay does. Are you truly ready to let go of the timeline? Because if you hold on to the expectation of instant relief, you are only setting yourself up for disappointment, and that disappointment will become another layer of pain. The moment you surrender the when, you open the door for peace in the now. And finally, the third step, the one that anchors everything in the promise of Revelation 21:4, is the claim of the divine hand. This is where we move beyond simply asking for comfort and start actively claiming the promise that has already been given. This is not about positive thinking, it is about spiritual authority. When you pray this specific prayer, you are not begging for a possibility, you are standing on a guarantee. The promise is not that you won't cry, but that the divine hand will personally intervene to wipe those tears away. So, how do you claim it? You stop focusing on the tear itself, and you start focusing on the hand that is reaching for you. You visualize that hand. It is not an impersonal force. It is the hand of the one who created you, who knows the exact weight of your sorrow. When the pain surges, you simply say, "I claim the promise of Revelation 21:4 over this specific sorrow. I invite the hand that wipes away every tear to touch my eyes right now. I release my fear of this pain and receive the presence of the healer." You are effectively shifting the burden. You are not asking for the strength to carry the boulder. You are asking the one who moves mountains to take the boulder entirely. This act of claiming the promise transforms the prayer from a plea into a declaration of trust. This declaration creates a profound shift in your energy, or what some call your chi, a change in your vital life force. When you stop fighting the pain and start trusting the promise, the energy you were using to resist the sorrow is freed up to receive the healing. This is why this prayer works instantly, not always in removing the pain, but instantly in replacing isolation with presence. You may still feel the ache, but you are no longer alone in it. That shift from isolation to companionship is the first layer of healing. You might be wondering, what if I mess up the words? What if I don't feel worthy? That is the voice of the old wound, the voice of shame trying to pull you back into hiding. Remember, the Father doesn't look at your performance, He looks at your heart. He sees the clay, cracked and weary, and all He wants is permission to start molding. The worthiness is already there, established not by what you do, but by who you are, a beloved creation. Another point that often trips people up is the idea that spiritual healing must negate practical action. That is a dangerous separation. True healing is holistic. When the divine hand begins to wipe the tear, it often guides your own hand to take the next practical step. Maybe the healing means you finally have the courage to set a healthy boundary, or to forgive yourself for a past mistake, or to seek professional help.
The spiritual invitation doesn't replace the practical journey, it empowers it. We often think of faith as sitting back and waiting, but faith is often the fuel for the hardest work of our lives. If you have been struggling to make a necessary change, to leave a toxic situation, to face a difficult truth, it is because the pain has sapped your will. But when you claim the promise of Revelation 21:4, you are receiving a fresh infusion of spiritual resilience. It's like a new compass when you thought you were permanently lost at sea. This metaphor of the compass is important. Think of your life as a ship caught in a relentless storm. The tears are the massive waves crashing over the deck. You can try to bail the water out with a tiny bucket, which is what we do when we try to fix the pain ourselves. Or you can acknowledge the storm, surrender your control over the weather, and focus on the one immutable point of guidance, the divine compass, which always points to home, to peace, and to the promise that the harbor exists. The act of claiming the divine hand is turning your gaze from the crashing waves to that fixed point. It's the moment you realize you are not sailing alone. Now, let's talk about a specific type of pain that often feels impossible to surrender, the pain caused by self-blame. We are so quick to internalize failure and tell ourselves, I deserved this, or if I had only been better, smarter, stronger, this wouldn't have happened. This self-condemnation is a heavy chain, heavier than any external suffering. When you bring this specific tear, the tear of regret and self-judgment, to the divine hand, the process is slightly different. The healer doesn't just wipe the tear, he corrects the narrative. He whispers the truth that you are forgiven, even if you haven't forgiven yourself yet. This prayer is an opportunity to receive grace for your own mistakes.
You must stop punishing yourself for things that have already been laid at the foot of the cross. I spent years punishing myself for decisions I made out of fear and immaturity. I carried that guilt like a stone in my stomach. It was only when I realized that self-punishment was an act of pride, because I was refusing to accept the full measure of grace offered, that I finally began to heal. So if you are carrying the tear of self-blame, let your prayer be this: I acknowledge the pain I caused, and I acknowledge the pain I feel. I surrender the right to punish myself, and I claim the promise of Revelation 21:4 for the healing of my own heart's judgment. This is a powerful transaction. It is exchanging the heavy burden of self-condemnation for the lightness of grace. The final piece of this practice, which ensures the healing lasts, is the integration of gratitude. This might sound counterintuitive when you are still hurting. How can you be grateful when you are weeping? You are not being asked to be grateful for the pain. You are being asked to be grateful for the presence in the pain. You are grateful that even in the deepest ditch, you are not abandoned. You are grateful for the certainty of the divine promise. Every morning,
Even before the pain has lifted, try to find one tiny thing to be grateful for. The warmth of the coffee cup, the sound of a bird, the fact that you woke up and chose to breathe again. This small act of gratitude is like opening a window in a dark room. It doesn't instantly make the darkness vanish, but it allows the light of hope to enter. This integration of presence and gratitude grounds the spiritual healing in your daily reality. It stops the pain from becoming your only identity. You are not just a person who suffers. You are a person who is actively, courageously, and faithfully healing.
This journey is a marathon, not a sprint. There will be days when you feel like you've gone backward, days when the tears flow just as freely as before. And on those days, I want you to remember this. Healing is not a straight line. Sometimes the tears flow because the deep tissues are finally releasing old toxins. It is part of the process, not a failure of the prayer. The beautiful, gentle promise of Revelation 21:4 is not just a future hope. It is a present reality, available the moment you open your heart and invite the divine hand to touch your weary soul. Rest in that certainty. The sculptor is working on the clay. The biggest obstacle in this process of divine sculpting, my friend, is often our own resistance. We feel the pain being worked out, and instinctively we tense up. We fear that letting go of the pain means letting go of the memory, or worse, letting go of the person we lost, or the identity that trauma gave us. I know this intimately. For years after my own greatest loss, I held on to the sharp edges of my grief, because honestly, the pain was the last thing connecting me to what I missed. It felt like a betrayal to feel peace. But listen to me now, because this is crucial. The sculptor does not ask you to betray your memories. He asks you to trust the process of refinement. He is not erasing the history. He is just removing the poison that history left behind. Think of the clay vessel we talked about. If the clay is too hard, the sculptor cannot mold it. The vessel will crack under the pressure of the wheel. The softness required is the softness of surrender, the willingness to say, I hurt, and I don't know the way forward, but I trust the hand that holds me.
And I want to be very real with you here. Trusting is not a one-time event. It's a moment-by-moment decision. There are days when I still wake up and the shadows are long, and I feel that familiar ache, that whisper that says, you're still broken. I have cried myself to sleep many nights, feeling like I had taken 10 steps backward after a day of feeling strong. In those moments, I have to consciously lay the clay back on the wheel. I have to repeat the prayer, not because I failed the first time, but because I need a fresh infusion of grace for that specific hour. Are you allowing yourself this grace, or are you demanding perfection from your healing? This brings us to the final, gentle maintenance work we must do once the prayer has been whispered and the initial relief has settled. Healing is sustained by intentionality. It's about building small altars of remembrance in your daily life. It's not about ignoring the pain. It's about actively finding things that are not pain. The mind, when left unchecked, will always revert to the familiar ache, so we must gently redirect it. One powerful way to sustain this peace is through radical gratitude for the small things. When you can't look forward to a big future, look down at your hands and be grateful for the strength they still possess. Look at the sun on your face and acknowledge that life is still breathing beauty into your world, even if you can't feel it fully yet. This small shift in focus is like reinforcing the walls of the newly formed vessel, making it strong enough to hold joy when it finally arrives. It is the quiet, daily work of recognizing that even in the valley, there are wildflowers blooming.
Another common pitfall I see, and one I fought hard against, is the expectation that healing means you will never feel sadness again. That is a myth. Healing simply means that sadness no longer has the power to destroy you. It means you can feel the rain without drowning in the storm. It means the scars remain, but they are no longer bleeding. They are markers of where the sculptor worked hardest, symbols of endurance and grace. They become the testimony. This is the beauty of moving beyond the immediate crisis. You start to realize that your story is not defined by the tragedy. but by the miraculous strength it took to survive it. You move from being the victim of the storm to becoming the lighthouse that guides others through the darkness. You earn the right to comfort others with the same comfort you received. Remember, Revelation 21:4 promises that God will wipe away every tear. It is a promise of action from the divine. Our part is simply to make ourselves available to that touch, to stop wiping our own tears with our own exhausted efforts, and allow the gentle, steady hand of grace to reach us. Surrender is not weakness. It is the ultimate act of faith, because you are trusting a power greater than your own pain. If this conversation has touched a raw place in your heart today, please know you are not alone. I see you. I honor your struggle. And I promise you, the peace you are seeking is already reaching out to hold you. You have done the hard work of showing up and opening your heart to this prayer. Now, let the peace settle. If this message gave you a moment of comfort, if it reminded you that you are loved and seen, please consider sharing this video with one person you know who is also carrying a heavy load right now. Let's spread this gentle hope. And if you feel ready to continue this journey of faith and vulnerability with me, subscribe to the channel.
I share these quiet moments of reflection every week, designed to help us navigate the storms together. Thank you for opening your heart and allowing me to walk this path with you. Go now and rest in the certainty that your tears matter, and they are being gently wiped away. Be well, my friend. Be well.